Welcome back to Morbidium, where the stories don't fade, they linger. Last season, we walked through the shadows, unsolved disappearances, fractured timelines, unanswered questions that still echo through the dark. But this season, we go deeper into the files that were closed too soon, the voices that were silenced, the truths that were buried beneath over fear and time. This isn't just true crime, it's the anatomy of what lingers after. Every case we tell carries weight for the victims, for the families, and for the communities left searching for peace. And as our audience continues to grow, so does our responsibility to tell these stories with integrity, empathy, and relentless curiosity. Season 3 is about unfinished business, cold cases that refuse to stay cold, mysteries that unravel when you pull the close thread, and the chilling realization that sometimes the most terrifying thing isn't what happened, it's what didn't. So dim the lights, lock the doors, and lean in close, because the truth is out there, and we're not done looking. This is Morbidium. All right, folks, today we're heading to Tehachapi, California. It's a small mountain town, has a desert kind of vibe, where everyone knows someone who knows someone. And sadly, sometimes that someone ends up in the worst kind of trouble.
Today we're talking about Cheyenne Watkins, a 23-year-old woman whose life was taken in 2018. Her story has largely been untold publicly, but today we're sharing it from her family's perspective.
Exactly. And a lot of what we're covering comes directly from Cheyenne's sister. She's been candid about the family's memories, fears, and ongoing struggles with the justice system. Nearly 8 years later, they are still waiting for answers.
And timing is part of why we're sharing this one now. Cheyenne's birthday is coming up on March 21st, a birthday that she won't get to celebrate, but the anniversary of her death is also coming up soon. So her family has given permission for us to tell her story so that we can honour her memory.
It's important to start with the basics like we always do. Cheyenne came from a blended family. She had three biological siblings and a biological father who was never in the picture. The kids were raised by Walt, and he was their stepdad. And from now on, we will refer to him as dad.
Her mother passed away in 2011, and Cheyenne's sister had her ashes laid to rest with their mother. Cheyenne was close to her family, and her dad especially treasured simple moments, fishing trips, lake days, and even just sitting around watching TV.
I'm already starting to cry, Allie. Like, this could be my little sister we're talking about. Um, Cheyenne's sister shared a memory of a trip to San Diego where her young daughter called Cheyenne YY. And it's a small, funny memory, but it captures her playful personality.
So now we have to get on to the events leading up to her death. Cheyenne was seen by her family for the last time on May 27th of 2018 when she went to her dad's house to spend time with him and her brother. And that day, Cheyenne and her brother took a photograph together. It'll be the final one the family ever has of her. And as a little side note, Cheyenne had just dyed her hair and she didn't like how it had turned out. And she was upset about it, which I can completely relate to that emotion. I mean, I'm always complaining when my hair doesn't turn out how I wanted. It's just another layer of humanity of who this young woman was, and it makes her death hit even harder.
Right. So after spending time at her dad's, she left with a friend, Brian, and went to his house. Later that day, Brian claimed Cheyenne left with her on and off again boyfriend, Alejandro Sanchez, and they went to a different house. Brian reportedly told Sanchez nothing had better happened to her. because Cheyenne felt something was off by leaving with him.
So on May 29th, Brian shows up at her dad's house in the mid-afternoon and he was looking for Cheyenne. Multiple people were trying to find her throughout that day.
Brian said he was concerned because she had left with Sanchez and wasn't answering calls or texts. He had been driving around looking for her. Later that evening, he told her sister the real reason. He was worried because Sanchez had a gun. He described it as a long barrel cowboy style pump action rifle, like a little 410, something you would go dove hunting with. Brian said he feared something had happened to Cheyenne.
Now, her sister didn't live in California at the time, so she reached out to Cheyenne's friends and her own network in town to try and track her down. Brian claims he also went to the police station to voice his concerns, but he was dismissed.
On May 30th, the family continued searching. Texts weren't being returned, calls were being ignored, and the family decided that if Cheyenne wasn't found by the end of the day, they would file a police report. Obviously, by the end of that day, there was still no contact.
The missing person report was filed at 3:56 p.m. on May 31st. Cheyenne's identification information, physical description, tattoos, and the concern about the gun were all mentioned at that time.
Next day, on June 1st, a Facebook post from the Golden Hills Community Watch alerted Cheyenne's sister to an active crime scene, taped off with homicide units, possibly a coroner. Her gut told her it was Cheyenne. She called family, friends, and her aunt to go to the scene. Her aunt arrived and called her saying, "Whatever happened here doesn't look good."
Yes, Cheyenne was identified at the scene by her tattoos. And shockingly, her sister was initially told that Cheyenne had a gunshot wound to her chest, not in the head, which is where she was actually shot. That was later reported by news outlets. Even after the missing person report, there was no formal notification given to the next of kin.
That's insane to me. That's insane. When my sister was shot, when she was murdered, the media was calling as my parents were driving to the hospital, and this was back before cell phones were carried by everybody, so it was just landlines ringing off the hook, so I can't fathom how it would feel to not have a formal notification. Detectives knew that she had last been seen with Sanchez, but there was no public appeal. There was no naming him as a person of interest until his arrest in October. And that arrest happened in Santa Monica, California.
Now, we should mention here that several witnesses had came forward. One of those said they saw Sanchez's truck at the Kidd Palace residence. Another claimed Sanchez had confessed to killing Cheyenne. Then there was the person who had helped destroy and discard of the weapon along Highway 99, and they said Sanchez told them that the bitch had it coming. Another witness said Sanchez asked her to run away with him after Cheyenne had been found, and someone else reported Sanchez running down Golden Hills Road, stopping and saying, "I gotta get out of here, I'm fucked, it's all fucked."
Now, here's where we have some interesting insight because during a local AA meeting, for those of you who are unfamiliar, Alcoholics Anonymous, Sanchez's father reportedly broke down. He confessed, saying his son was a murderer. But due to the anonymity of these meetings, no formal action was taken.
And I do feel I quickly need to mention here because if I don't, I will forget. The person we mentioned before who would help destroy the gun, he would later testify, and in exchange for that, he received a deal and was able to walk away from multiple felony charges.
Sanchez was allegedly hiding in Santa Monica, the place where he had been arrested. He was staying at a relative's house. Another relative later filed a restraining order against him, reportedly after a conversation regarding Cheyenne's murder.
So Sanchez was arrested, like we said, in October of 2018. He went to trial in 2019 and the family had to go through a mistrial in 2020. And although the jury couldn't come to a unanimous decision, it has been said that it was a majority for guilty. So following that, charges were immediately refiled, but delays, continuances, and defence unavailability have kept this case in limbo. A court hearing was scheduled for March 9th, but so far no new trial date has been set. Though I will say in 2023, a plea was offered to Sanchez for second degree murder, but he rejected it. And the family had no knowledge of that offer until 2 years later. And of course, unsurprisingly, they consider that an insult and a reminder that nearly 8 years later, justice still remains elusive.
Cheyenne had fiery red hair, an infectious laugh, and a spark that drew people in. Her dad loved the fishing trips, the quiet TV nights. Her brother cherished their simple times together. Her sister had teenage sister moments when possible, and her niece's nickname, YY, shows how her personality left a mark.
And her family's grief is enormous. I mean, they buried both a mother and the youngest sibling. And that's on top of the years of illegal limbo. And they're still fighting for answers.
So we are sharing her story now, around her birthday and death anniversary, to honor her memory and remind us all of the human impact behind every one of these cases.
Yeah, because her story isn't just a case file. It's a life lost and a family shattered and a long, painful journey through the justice system.
We're going to keep following this case and sharing updates. For now, remember Cheyenne Watkins and keep her story alive.